Maximus Darn's tragic life officially flatlines as he feels his own battered body dragged across rough concrete inside a suffocating black bag. Riddled with stab wounds and completely helpless, he reflects on the cursed luck that built him, the brutal sequence of family deaths that forged him into the ruthless leader of the White Tiger Gang. His grim trip down memory lane abruptly halts as a zipper slices open, exposing him to blurry light. A masked figure yanks him up by his blood-soaked hair, mocking his rise from the gutter before dramatically pulling off the disguise. But blood fills Maximus's eyes, and he is entirely unable to see the face of his executioner. The killer taunts that money, not gangs, rules the city, twisting a private phrase that sparks instant recognition and dread in Maximus. It is a betrayal from someone close. Before he can connect the dots, a brutal kick sends him tumbling backward into freezing water. He sinks rapidly, his lungs burning as he curses the heavens, demanding to know his killer's identity before the icy abyss swallows him whole. However, death is shockingly brief. Blinding agony suddenly erupts in his skull, obliterating the darkness. As his senses reboot, the frantic beeping of a heart monitor pierces the air alongside the panicked shouts of medical staff. Above the chaos, a cold, authoritative voice barks a life-or-death ultimatum, demanding the doctors spare no expense to save the patient. But the voice doesn't call him Maximus Darn. The powerful stranger demands they save the life of Max Stern. Shock paralyzes his waking mind as the impossible truth clicks into place. The infamous gang leader just drowned in the gutter, only to wake up inside the body of a scion belonging to the wealthiest family in the entire country. Maximus lies perfectly, still in his lavish hospital bed, his mind spinning as he desperately tries to convince himself that Stern is just a common name, not the legendary Stern family whose absurd luck built a global empire out of spring water and tech startups. Waiting for the medical staff to clear out, he cautiously peeks open one eye to find himself surrounded by crisp white walls and Michelin star-quality food trays, scoffing at the ridiculous things rich people waste money on. Summoning his newfound strength, he swings his trembling legs off the bed and shuffles into the private bathroom, sighing in pure relief as he empties his bladder before finally facing the terrifying truth in the mirror. Staring back at him is the reflection of an unfamiliar 18-year-old boy with striking features, a sharp jawline, and ridiculously bright red hair styled in an awkward bowl cut, leaving Maximus wondering if his lucky red underwear somehow triggered this insane reincarnation. But his awe quickly turns to alarm as he pulls open his white hospital robe, revealing a horrifying collection of dark, deliberately hidden bruises scattered across his frail, skinny torso. Wincing as he presses a tender spot, he realizes someone has been systematically abusing this kid. Resolving to figure out his new reality, he opens the bathroom door, only to freeze dead in his tracks when he spots a sharply dressed man in an immaculate black suit and thin glasses waiting outside. The man calmly calls him out for pretending to sleep, prompting a panicked Maximus to stammer out a desperate lie, claiming he has total amnesia and has no idea who anyone is. The man sighs in frustration, adjusting his glasses before introducing himself as Aaron Hart, his personal bodyguard for the past several years, and drops a bombshell that makes Maximus's heart hammer in his chest. He desperately needs protection because he is Max Stern, the youngest heir to the most powerful family in the entire nation, leaving the former gang leader trapped in a battered body with a massive target already painted on his back. Reeling from the bombshell that he is a massive target, Max listens intently as Aaron casually breaks down the cutthroat Stern family tree, revealing 2 uncles, 2 aunts, and a slew of older cousins that firmly place Max at the bottom of the inheritance ladder. Aaron explains Max's parents died in a tragic car crash, making the stoic bodyguard his legal guardian, before smoothly handing over a state-of-the-art smartphone. Max unlocks it with his face, a cold realization hitting him. It has only been 3 days since his old gang betrayed and murdered him. Testing his new bodyguard's bizarre loyalty, Max sarcastically demands a red carpet and a Lamborghini, only to panic and frantically cancel the order when Aaron instantly calls it in, deadpan mocking his sudden young master syndrome. The moment Aaron steps out to sign discharge papers, Max stares into the bathroom mirror, vowing to use his newfound immense wealth to hunt down the white tigers who killed him, officially shedding his old life to fully become Max Stern. But his reflection catches a sudden blur of movement, and he barely dodges as a masked assassin in all black lunges at him from the shadows. Evading the ensuing wild punches with veteran gang leader ease, Max counters with a swift, precise strike to the attacker's face, only to wince as blinding pain shoots through his new, frail knuckles. Enraged and humiliated, the assassin draws a jagged pocket knife and demands Max beg for his life. But instead of cowering, the former underworld boss steps forward with a deadly, blood-chilling glare. His terrifying aura makes the seasoned killer instinctively retreat in a cold sweat as Max calmly warns him that drawing a blade just made this a fight to the absolute death. Dropping into a protective stance, Max's cocky smile vanishes, replaced by the deadly focus of a veteran gangster. Unnerved by the kid's sudden terrifying aura, the attacker desperately lunges forward with the knife. Max doesn't even flinch. Moving with calculated precision, he steps right into the strike, parries the blade upward, and brutally twists the assassin's elbow. A sickening crack echoes as Max locks the arm and unleashes a relentless barrage of punches to the man's face. The knife clatters to the hospital floor, and one final devastating strike sends the assailant slumping against the wall, weakly whimpering in pain. Max coldly retrieves the dropped blade, fully intending to finish the job, but suddenly stops, realizing his new, pathetic teenage body can barely even lift the man by his shirt. Before he can execute his next move, the door slides open. Aaron steps in, freezing at the chaotic scene before him. Snapping back to reality, Max immediately drops the knife and raises his hands, playing the innocent victim to keep his true identity a secret. Processing the bloodbath, Aaron quickly shoos Max into the next room to change while dialing for a rapid investigation, muttering darkly about who would dare target a Stern family heir. However, noticing the assassin's expertly shattered elbow, Aaron's suspicion deepens. How did a spoiled teenager with zero combat training inflict such surgical damage? Next door, two silent bodyguards hand Max a sharp, tailored suit. As he dresses, Max flexes his throbbing, fractured knuckles, swearing to rebuild his physical strength before hunting down the white tigers. Aaron suddenly enters the room, and Max immediately roasts the head of security for letting an armed killer slip past them. To Max's shock, Aaron bows deeply at 90 degrees, genuinely apologizing and taking full responsibility for the failure of the 9th security team. Impressed by the bodyguard's fierce loyalty, Max lets it slide, but Aaron's expression instantly hardens as he delivers chilling news. Tonight is the grand Stern family gathering, and Max is forced to attend. Aaron gravely warns him that his ruthless relatives will exploit his memory loss, explicitly ordering Max not to leave his side for even a second. Smiling at his new bodyguard's intense protectiveness, Max confidently agrees, but demands a fresh haircut first, fully prepared to show his venomous new family exactly who they are dealing with. Stepping out of the barbershop, Max's sharp new haircut completely transforms his dull appearance into a sleek, sophisticated look, making his youthful body feel like a massive upgrade. Sitting in the passenger seat as Aaron drives, Max confidently flips through a thick stack of dossiers, ready to dissect the vipers he now calls family. Aaron quizzes him, and Max effortlessly breaks down the players. There is Dave Stern, a gluttonous uncle hoarding restaurant chains, and Randy Stern, a dirty financier whose golden boy son Danto practically rules his university. Max smirks at Aunt Masha's 3 divorces and Aunt Karen's botched lip fillers, but Aaron quickly cuts through the jokes, pointing out Karen's deadly position as the oldest heir and the absolute frontrunner for succession. Max sizes up her useless, nepotism-fueled son Chad and her genuinely threatening biotech genius daughter Bobo before decisively tossing the dossiers aside. He has memorized the board perfectly. Aaron warns him to stay sharp as the car pulls up to imposing 6-meter-high gates. The estate beyond is horrifyingly vast, a sprawling fortress dripping with unfathomable wealth and power. Max stares at the breathtaking mansion, his blood pumping with dangerous anticipation as Aaron delivers one final, chilling reminder. Tonight, Max is not just a survivor walking into a den of wolves, but a Stern himself, and the real bloodbath is just beginning. Stepping out of the car, Max looks up at the Stern family mansion, and for the first time in 2 lives, he feels utterly insignificant. In his past life, he built a massive gang empire from the gutter and became one of the wealthiest men in the city. But this sprawling estate is genuine, mind-boggling wealth on an entirely different level. As he distractedly reaches out to open the enormous entrance door, Aaron violently grabs his wrist, stopping him in his tracks with an unbelievably strong grip. Max masks the pain with a strained smile, asking what he did wrong, only for Aaron to whisper harshly that a true member of the Stern family never opens doors for themselves because the vultures will exploit any sign of casual behavior. Realizing the insane rules of this new world, Max steps aside, allowing Aaron to smoothly push open the grand doors into an enormous hallway lined with paintings worth more than several houses. Suited guards position themselves strategically throughout the estate, making the mansion look like an impregnable fortress that even Max's former White Tiger gang couldn't breach. Aaron guides him away from the luxury vehicles arriving for the grand celebration in the gardens, leading him instead through ornate doors into an extravagant reception room beneath a massive chandelier. Sitting there are the Stern family heirs, and Aunt Karen immediately strikes with a patronizing sneer, mocking his punctual arrival. Max tries to ignore the insult and blend in with the younger crowd, but the oldest aunt, Masha Stern, halts his steps with a cruel demand for a proper greeting, mocking his deceased parents. Instantly, Max's heart races as his body reacts instinctively with an uncontrollable surge of fury. Swallowing his pride, he bows respectfully to the elders while internally cringing at how his old gang would laugh at him. The mocking continues as Aunt Karen openly insults his intelligence, forcing Max to bite his tongue and retreat toward his cousins, who promptly ignore him. He slumps onto a sofa, listening to them brag about their achievements until his pompous cousin Chad shakes an empty glass and condescendingly commands Max to fetch them wine. Max's eyes narrow dangerously at the insult, but before he can snap, Aaron places warning hands on his shoulders and offers to get it himself. Suddenly, the towering and muscular Danto cuts Aaron off with a fierce glare, stating Chad ordered Max, not the servant. Danto ice-coldly warns that if a dog is no longer loyal, it deserves to become a stray. Hearing the blatant threat, Max snaps, shooting up from his seat with his fists balled tightly, ready to unleash his inner gang boss and painted the pristine floor with family blood. Max snaps, shooting up from his seat with a fierce intensity that sends a visible shiver down Aaron's spine. Inside, Aaron panics, screaming silently for the young master to hold back because losing his temper now will give this toxic family the perfect ammunition to ruin him completely. Sensing the danger, Max suppresses his rage, forces a sudden smile, and asks Aaron if he wants a drink too. Aaron stands frozen in absolute relief, politely declining due to being on duty before discreetly pointing Max toward the kitchen doors. Max storms into the kitchen, his jaw clenching as he recalls how Danto openly insulted his loyal servant, making him realize just how rotten the Stern family truly is. Spotting the wine bottles on a massive island, Max pours the drinks, deeply suspicious of why this family treats the youngest son like absolute garbage, as if he is some massive threat to the inheritance. He briefly considers spiking their drinks with his own spit, but decides against it, opting to play it safe until he can navigate this new body's life. He loads the drinks onto a round tray and steps back into the reception room, instantly drawing the judgmental stares of everyone present. The pompous Bobo mocks him, sneering that Max looks better as a waiter, but Max ignores the insult and silently hands out the glasses. He serves Bobo, then Danto, and finally Sissy, who receives a polite smile since she is the only one who hasn't openly insulted him yet. When Max hands the very last glass to Chad, Chad's face twists in pure fury as he demands to know why he was served last despite being older than Sissy. Max honestly explains he didn't know the birth order mattered, but Chad explodes, shouting that Max is an uneducated animal without basic manners. Max stops dead in his tracks, whips around, and casually asks Chad if he licks the lid when he eats yogurt. Completely thrown off, Chad proudly barks that he would never act like a beggar, causing Max to break into a mocking, satisfied grin at the billionaire heir. Infuriated, Chad slams his chair back and advances on Max, ready to swing, while Max mentally prepares to drop him in self-defense. Suddenly, Marcia's voice cuts through the tension as she bows deeply, announcing the arrival of the family patriarch. The doors swing open to reveal Dennis Stern, a 70-year-old powerhouse with a commanding aura and a perfectly tailored gray suit. The entire room instantly bows in unison to welcome the legendary founder of the Stern Empire. Dennis smiles warmly at his family, but his sharp eyes immediately lock onto Max with intense focus. The room falls dead silent as Dennis commands Max to follow him for a private, one-on-one meeting, leaving the entire family burning with jealousy and suspicion. Dennis turns on his heel and exits without waiting, leaving a suffocating silence in his wake. Max hesitates, feeling the staggering weight of the old man's presence, but Aaron steps forward with a reassuring smile, promising to stay by his side. Max steps through the doorway, his chest tightening as he tries to rationalize the pressure, reminding himself that he used to lead the ruthless White Tiger Gang and has faced countless powerful industry titans. Behind them, Aaron shuts the massive double doors with a soft click, sealing the family inside. Instantly, the reception room erupts into pure chaos. Karen snaps in rage, demanding to know why their grandfather wants to meet with that useless brat, while Dave nervously dabs sweat from his forehead. Karen paces like a caged animal, paranoid that they are being cut out of a massive secret before demanding answers from Marcia. Calmly, Marcia admits she knows nothing but points toward the younger cousins, whose stiff, uneasy faces instantly draw the sharp, suspicious glares of every adult in the room. Meanwhile, Max navigates the heavily guarded hallways, noticing a frail, elderly assistant in a sharp suit joining Dennis's side. Max scoffs internally, wondering how this fragile old man could protect anyone, amused by the fact that the powerful family has no idea a legendary mob boss is currently inhabiting their youngest grandson's body. They stop before a pair of eccentric, massive doors adorned with golden lion handles and winding red dragon patterns. With a heavy push, the doors swing open to reveal Dennis's colossal, throne-like office. Dennis glides over to his high-backed chair, commanding Max to take a seat on the opposite sofa. Leaning forward with clasped hands, Dennis explains that the red dragon is their family's symbol of ultimate fortune, even joking that Max dyed his hair red to match it before dropping a bombshell. He knows Max wouldn't remember any of this. Max's heart hammers against his ribs, but he forces himself to lock eyes with the tycoon, cautiously asking what he means. Dennis bursts into laughter, revealing that Aaron already filled him in on Max's supposed amnesia and promises to keep the secret safe. Getting down to business, Dennis explains that he refuses to let the Stern Empire fall to incompetence, so he has designed a ruthless survival challenge for all his heirs. Each candidate receives an identical sum of money to do with as they please. At the end of my tenure, when I choose to retire, the one who brings back the most money will become the heir to the Stern Empire. Max's inner mob boss grins at the flawless, brutal efficiency of the test, realizing he can use this money to track down his old gang and find out who killed him. Softening his tone, Max asks how much money each heir receives. Dennis answers without a single beat of hesitation, 1 billion. Max freezes, checking his ears in absolute disbelief and asking if he meant 1 million. Dennis barks back that he doesn't waste time on small change, confirming it is a billion with a capital B. Max lowers his head, desperately hiding the massive, predatory grin spreading across his face as the ultimate realization hits him. In a flash, he just went from dodging bullets to ruling billions. $1 billion. To most people, it's just a number, but Max knows the brutal reality of wealth. 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is over 31 years. It is an astronomical, universe-altering difference, and with a single snap of a finger, that unimaginable fortune now rests entirely in his hands. But survival in this new life means scaling an empire, not just spending cash, and Max's mind is already racing with a singular, lethal objective: total annihilation of the White Tiger Gang. Dennis dismisses him, throwing him into a den of global power players gathered in the estate garden for a birthday celebration, leaving the old tycoon and his assistant Fred to marvel at the predatory greed hiding beneath Max's changing demeanor. Walking down the hallway with his enigmatic guide, Aaron, Max probes for information, realizing this inheritance war has already been raging for an entire year. Panic suddenly grips him as he realizes the original teenage Max has had full access to the funds this entire time. Desperate to know how much of his war chest remains, Max whips out his phone, authenticates his biometric scan, and opens the primary banking app. He braces for a depleted balance, but as the screen flashes to life, his eyes narrow in absolute shock. Staring back at him is the pristine, untouched figure of $1 billion. The previous host hasn't spent a single, solitary penny, leaving Max with a fully loaded arsenal and a terrifying new question. Why did a teenager leave a massive fortune completely untouched? Staring at the untouched $1 billion on his screen, Max steps into the massive birthday gala, where elite CEOs network like predators. Ignoring the corporate vultures, Max grabs a plate of luxury desserts, accompanied by his loyal shadow, Aaron. Suddenly, a figure blindsides him, drenching his chest in deep red wine. Max turns to face his arrogant cousin, Chad, who flashes a condescending grin before walking away, laughing. Max reins in his murderous impulse, but before he can clean up, a stunning woman in a tight blue dress blocks his path. She spits venom, calling him pathetic and ambitionless, before storming off right into Chad's waiting arms. Aaron smoothly steps forward to identify her as Sherry Kurtz, Max's former fiancée who dumped him the moment his family status plummeted, completely unaware that Max secretly holds $1 billion war chest. Max shrugs off the gold digger and turns back to the buffet, but a passing conversation stops him dead in his tracks. The voice is unmistakable, a phantom from his previous life. A high-ranking member of the White Tiger Syndicate, the very organization Max created. Max's blood runs cold as his past and present violently collide, leaving him with one terrifying question. What is a ruthless mobster doing at a high-society billionaire gala? Max doesn't even need to turn around to recognize the voice. It belongs to Skinny Katie, one of the Cubs. The elite inner circle Max handpicked back when he ruled the White Tiger Gang. Seeing Caddy at a high-society gala throws Max into confusion, especially since his former syndicate never had ties to the elite Stern family. Max has only been gone for 3 days, and the sudden presence of his old subordinate makes him wonder if a new leader has already taken over the gang. Memories flood back of how he and Katie built the syndicate from the ground up, tempting Max to reveal his true identity and use his new fortune to rebuild their empire. But a chilling realization freezes him in his tracks. He was betrayed by someone close to him, and any one of the Cubs could be the traitor who sold him out. Realizing Keddy's presence is highly suspicious, Max decides to walk away before his notoriously dangerous temper flares up. As he turns to leave, a hard impact hits one of his hidden bruises, causing him to wince and shout in pain. The culprit is Chad, who maliciously smears a sticky jam scone all over Max's shirt while faking innocence to make Max look like the bad guy. Max forces himself to breathe through the disrespect, realizing Chad is deliberately targeting him, but Aaron steps in with a look that commands him to let it go. Max complies and prepares to exit, but Chad takes it a step further by intentionally tripping a passing waiter. 6 full glasses of champagne launch into the air, soaking Max from head to toe as the crowd bursts into humiliating laughter. Chad mocks his drenched appearance, but Max snaps, turning around with a terrifying smile and launching a furious fist straight at Chad's face. Aaron instantly intercepts the blow midair, whispering that he is only trying to protect Max from ruining his life. Max calmly agrees, causing Aaron to lower his guard and release his grip. The exact second his wrist is free, Max unleashes his other hand and drives his fist directly into the side of Chad's face, sending the bully crashing to the ground. Standing over the groaning Air, Max glares down and declares that he doesn't need anyone's protection, leaving the entire high society crowd frozen in absolute horror as a war with the Stern family officially begins. Chad crashes into the dirt, his high society world suddenly shrinking down to knee level as a burning, numb agony explodes across his face. Tasting iron on his tongue, his trembling fingers reach for his cheek, completely shattered by the fact that he has just been hit for the first time in his entire life. He scrambles awkwardly through the mud to grab his fallen sunglasses, desperately trying to hide his humiliation before glaring up at his attacker. Max looks down at the dazed Air with a faint, mocking smile, wondering if the punch completely rebooted the guy's brain. Gasps ripple through the crowd as every elite guest turns to witness the unfolding disaster. Whispers spread like wildfire as they recognize Chad, a prominent Stern family heir, but they draw a blank on the younger, poorly dressed kid standing over him. Nearby, a sharp-eyed guest named Katie inquires about the teenager, only for his associate to reveal that the boy is Max Stern, the underestimated, orphaned youngest heir. Katie smiles at the brewing internal war, but the atmosphere turns lethal as heavy. Furious footsteps stomp through the crowd. Karen Stern explodes into the clearing, screaming for her son as she rushes to inspect Chad's heavily swollen face. Blinded by absolute rage, she storms directly up to Max and unleashes a brutal slap that echoes like a gunshot through the silent garden. Before Max can even process the dry thought that he should have seen it coming, she strikes his other cheek with equal venom, hissing that he is a parasite who betrayed the family that took him in. Karen raises her hand for a third strike, completely unaware that Max, a survivor of the ruthless underworld where gender means nothing, is already clenching his fist to retaliate. Suddenly, Aaron throws himself between them, calmly stating that his ultimate duty is to protect the young master. Karen demands he move, threatening to strike him too, but the guard stands like an immovable wall. Enraged, she unleashes a frenzy of violent slaps and sharp-clawed scratches across Aaron's face, drawing blood and bruising his eyes. Max commands his guard to step aside, but Aaron plants his feet even firmer, admitting he has failed too many times before and will gladly absorb the punishment to keep Max safe. Max watches in pure disbelief as the surrounding elites stay silent, while Chad mouths a smug, mocking taunt from the ground. Disgusted by the fake loyalty of the Stern family, Max tenses his muscles, preparing to forcefully throw Aaron aside and end the woman himself. Karen, her hands raw from beating the guard, yanks a heavy walking stick from a nearby guest and raises it to strike. But just as Max is about to unleash his full strength, a booming voice thunders across the garden, freezing every single soul in attendance as the terrifying patriarch, Dennis Stern, steps into the light. The terrifying patriarch, Dennis Stern, steps into the light, freezing the entire garden in pure dread as Karen drops her stolen walking stick in sheer terror. Instead of the grand birthday applause he expected, the world's most powerful man walks straight into absolute chaos. His cold, controlled gaze sweeps across the bloody mess, landing on a bruised Aaron, a trembling Karen, a swollen-faced Chad, and finally, Max. Chad immediately plays the victim, loudly lying to the crowd that Max lost his mind and punched him over a spilled drink, completely hiding the fact that he deliberately targeted Max first. The crowd eats up the lie, but Dennis ignores everyone, walking slowly until he stands dead in front of Max, demanding to know why he isn't defending himself. Max doesn't flinch, calmly declaring that he owns his actions and would punch Chad again even if Dennis were watching, a defiance that forces Dennis to bow his head. The guests think the patriarch is shaking with rage, but he is actually hiding a massive grin, thrilled that Max has the fire of a true fighter instead of running to him to beg for help like the rest of the family. Dennis abruptly ends the drama, ordering the furious Karen and Chad to clean up the mess while telling Max to change his clothes, subtly smiling as he notes Max is finally maturing. As Max and Aaron head inside, Max realizes Dennis operates exactly like a ruthless mob boss, a persona Max understands perfectly because he built his own empire in his past life. Bandaging up his loyal guard, Max gives Aaron a genuine thank you, causing the stoic fighter to crack a rare smile. Later, Max returns to the party in clean clothes, enjoying the peace of being ignored by the terrified guests while planning how to navigate this dangerous new family. Once the party ends, the scene shifts to the manor's closed meeting room, where Dennis slams his fist down, roaring at his spineless board of executives who only offer lazy, uninspired corporate solutions. He kicks the useless suits out, unable to stop thinking about Max's fierce independence, but notes that the boy is still too young and hasn't even touched his inheritance money yet. Left alone with his assistant Fred, Dennis heavily admits that he is running out of time to find a worthy heir, when a sudden knock at the door changes everything as Fred announces that the mysterious representative from the White Tiger has finally arrived. The mysterious representative from the White Tiger gang steps into Dennis's office, but across town, Max is already leaving the tense party behind. He slides into the passenger seat as Aaron takes the wheel, steering them straight into the dark streets of Notting Hill City. Irony hits Max hard. This is the exact turf where his last gang deal went completely sideways before his reincarnation, and now, by some twist of fate, this rich kid actually lives here. Max stares out the window as the sleek car rolls into a decaying, trash-lined neighborhood packed with cramped, graffiti-covered apartment blocks. Expecting a luxury penthouse, Max asks if they are just stopping for a break. But Aaron calmly reveals that this rundown slum is Max's actual home. Max steps out into the cold air, completely baffled that a billionaire heir to the Stern family has been living like a broke ghost for an entire year. Aaron leads him up a dark stairwell to a bleak, 30-square-meter room containing nothing but a single tiny bed, a cheap television, and a cramped kitchen corner. Max checks his phone's banking app to uncover the truth, discovering that his massive $20,000 monthly allowance automatically resets every month because the previous owner never spent a single dime. Aaron softly explains that Max chose this isolation himself at age 16 after his parents tragically died, a painful grief that the reincarnated Max understands all too well. Aaron announces that his weekend guard duty is officially over since Max previously fired the rest of his security team to live in absolute secrecy. Before bowing and taking his leave, Aaron pings a message to Max's phone under the contact name Stalker. Max opens the notification to find a rigid daily schedule, his eyes widening in pure horror as he stares at the calendar. The terrifying reality finally sinks in. The previous Max was only 17 years old, meaning the brutal gang leader must now survive his most dangerous mission yet: high school. Max stares at the terrifying high school schedule on his phone as the brutal reality sinks in. A legendary gang boss is now trapped in the ultimate hellscape of teenage life. For Max, high school is a mixed memory where books never stick, but his fists rule the streets. In his past life, he beats the toughest fighters, conquers the entire city, and even survives a legendary brawl against 50 men. But those violent glory days only lead to a betrayal by the White Tigers and an early grave, leaving him reincarnated in a hopelessly frail body. Desperate to escape his racing thoughts and get into fighting shape before school starts tomorrow, Max storms out into the dimly lit night. He possesses a massive fortune, but wealth without muscle in the underworld just makes him a walking target. He tracks down a local boxing gym, arriving just as a scruffy, broad-shouldered owner slams, the metal shutters closed for good due to mounting bills. Buying the building outright risks exposing him to dangerous enemies, so Max spots a payment QR code and pulls out his phone. The exhausted owner laughs off the high school kid, tossing out a ridiculous demand of $10,000 a month just to force him to leave. But before the man can even turn around, a sharp chime echoes through the quiet street, and the owner freezes in absolute shock as a massive $10,000 deposit flashes on his screen.